I hope you guys had a splendid week, and let's just get started on this week's assignment, and that is to actually make a burning barrel, which is something a lot of game companies usually ask for, like a test, you know. So this should give you guys like a nice advantage over the competition in order to get what companies usually look for in this kind of effect. And also, we will also dive in and learn about how to make even more materials for effects. So we're gonna make the flames most likely using distortion in the actual texture, a bunch of other stuff to make it look a lot more like fire and smoke, and also other elements like embers, glows, lights, etc. Another thing to take in note, you could do this with fluid simulation software or plugins like Fume Effects or Houdini or something like that. But for this course, since most of you probably don't have access to Fume, I'll probably won't be going into it, but we'll see. But the plan for now, at least, is to use as much as procedurally generated in Photoshop or hand painted. And this horrible Windows update situation, I honestly don't know how to get rid of this. So if you guys know, please let me know. That aside, where was I? Oh yes, yeah. So we'll try to do as much as in Photoshop and Unreal as possible, and if we need, we will use like Fume Effects or something like that. But we should get pretty good results just using like shader techniques, which is also like many game companies don't actually give you access to software like Fume. So something to keep in mind. Some of them are very conservative and they don't like to give like different software to people, or they don't think it's necessary or it's expensive. And it's definitely good to know how to make this like in a procedural way. So that said, I've modeled this barrel, in Max, and I've brought it in to Unreal. I'm going to give you guys the assets so you guys can use the same assets so we can compare results. And of course, please, when I say compare results, do your own thing. Don't copy 100% this. Just, try to make your own thing. So I've modeled this in 3ds Max, and I've imported it as an FBX. Here's a model. It has UVs, even though honestly you don't need UVs for this. I'm just using the shader the material to actually give it like a nice metal look, but still not like super clean, just a little bit clean, something that would fit this environment. That's something I want to stress out. Make sure every effect you do fits the environment. I've spoken about this last week. I will speak about this week as well. Make sure, of course, your effect needs to be generalistic in a way to fit every environment, but make sure you test them in the environments and make sure they fit. If they don't fit, something is wrong. Something needs to change. That said, of course, they need to stand out. If it's more important for gameplay, they need to be more saturated. They need to have different speeds, what have you. But as a rule of thumb, it kind of needs to fit the world. So make sure that whatever you do, you make it fit the world. So I'm actually referring to the barrel in this case. I needed to make something that kind of fits this world. Because if something stands out, it's going to stand out, and it's going to look weird. It's going to look out of place. So make sure that when you are doing the effects, the place you place them, they look good there. And the same goes for the props you use for the effects. If this was like a fire, a campfire, make sure the logs also fit the space. Make sure also the effect also has some sort of history, and maybe history is not the right word. Make sure they have a reason to be there. Like fire cannot. I've seen games like where there's fire on the concrete. And if there was no explosion with some debris flying out that have fire, this just looks ridiculous. So don't do that. I've seen like AAA games do that. So please, please, please don't do that. Just make sure there's always a justification. If you need fire burning on concrete, make a decal. Make a black decal around so it looks like there's oil or some remnants of something burning. It will integrate your fire effect a lot better in the world. Same for smoke. Don't make smoke come out of concrete for no reason. You know, make sure those things always have a reason to be there. So yeah. So that said, let's dive in. So I've made the barrel. I made the I made the material. I'll probably provide the material as well, but it's a very simple color. I've changed the metallicness of the material a little bit, so it's 0.9, so it's very metallic. And I changed the roughness a little bit because I wanted it a little bit rough, not super pristine. So yeah, there you go. It's the effect. Sorry, for the material for this barrel. We'll probably also reuse the texture we did last week. You know, this is very important. Make sure your textures are reusable, unless it's a very specific case. Like the dust we did like last week, we most likely be able to use it for the smoke in this week, and even who knows, maybe we can even use it for the flames itself. But let's not get ahead of ourselves on that. And yeah, let's just get started. Okay, I went ahead and went to textures.com, and I'm looking for some reference textures for what I want to use. Actually, I'm going to actually use these as the actual texturing, since CG Textures is free to use, or you can pay if you want access to everything. Another thing is reference. Always look for reference. So I've looked up online on YouTube. Great resource. Film your own if you can. Take textures of your own if you can, so you have more unique material. You know, because we end up, if everybody uses stuff from CG Textures, maybe the look of the effects from many games will start getting very similar. So make sure you grab your own textures, like for The Last of Us 2 and Uncharted 4, Lost Legacy, and even Uncharted 4. I went outside and took some textures, some photos of reference mostly, because for Uncharted I mostly used fluid sims, because I want to get this very specific lighting. But for this, we can use textures and photos. So here I'm going through the process of making a tileable flame texture, not because I'm actually going to use this as the final result. I'm actually not really going to use it with such intricate detail in the material I'm going to do, but I think it's going to be really good for you guys to see how to tile a texture from photos, which can be quite complicated. It's an art on itself and definitely very useful. At the end, I'm just going to pick up what I'm going to use from, what I'm going to make to show you guys, and I'm just going to clamp it and make it very high contrasty and use it as a mask. But regardless, definitely a very nice skill to have. So I'm going to show it like if I was going to be very specific and very intricate about the details of how to make a tileable texture out of photos. So I'm opening Photoshop and just try to grab this. Try to bring it to Photoshop. There we go. So it's big texture, so I'm gonna put these here. I'm gonna grab this other one. Since they were taken by the same camera at the same moment, I'm not gonna worry about color correction because I want to make sure my texture will blend them nicely. So I'm gonna start by making a tileable fire texture. So actually, let's try going a little bit bigger for now. Also because it's gonna be easy for you guys to see. I'm gonna go with some gray. So that's cool. And I'm gonna grab this guy. I'm just gonna shift, hold, and drag these guys here because I want to make sure they're kind of centered. Computer's a bit slow. Okay, so grab them. Grab this guy too. So we have both. And it seems like the texture would be a bit too big. So I'm gonna shrink the texture, the canvas. This is why you would also want to film or shoot your own textures, because you would get high resolution. So, okay, that seems still a bit too big for the resolution we have in these photos. I should have gotten higher res photos, but for the sake of this exercise, I think that's going to be fine. So I'm gonna grab both because I want to scale them. I make sure I have enough. Oh, sorry. I want to make sure the scale is consistent so we don't see like, you know, one texture is way smaller than the other one. That's why I also not doing the color correction right now. So you got some flames here. I'm gonna shift H to disable that grid. So it might be a little bit too big, the details. So I'm gonna shrink a little bit. It's gonna give me a lot more harder time to do the styling, but you know. All right, this seems like it would work. So this is kind of cool. So what I'm gonna do is that I'm gonna move this here and disable this, and this guy I'm going to put somewhere here. So I'm gonna make a mask. I'm gonna go to my brush. I'm gonna invert my brush so it's black. It's gonna paint black in the mask. Make sure it is 100%. I'm actually not using my Cintiq for this, and I should. But since I'm recording, the microphone is in the way, so I cannot really reach the Cintiq. So we're just gonna do something like that, and I'm gonna move this one a little bit. Oh, I can't. Okay. So, okay. A little bit too much black there. Yeah. Okay, let's duplicate this. And I'm gonna move this guy over there. So we have nice coverage. I'm gonna do some more. And I'm gonna switch to white because I don't want to see these black spots. Okay. I'm gonna add another mask here. I want to make sure that there's no blackness here. Okay. And this guy also, because I don't want to see these weird texturing artifacts. Okay. White. Seems like there's some. Oh no, it's okay. Maybe here. No, it's part. Actually, I thought it was a seam, but it's actually part of the photo. Okay, so that's cool. And this one. Let's see if I can get less black. Okay, still has some black there. Okay, it's this one. Okay, something like that. So we got a nice consistent flame texture. And we need to make sure this is stylable. So, and also, I don't like this, so I want to get the 6th. So, also you can change the brush as well. You can choose something a little bit more. Honestly, I don't have, like I said last lesson, I don't have good brushes here, so sadly, I'm not the guy to ask for brushes. Okay, that seems like a little bit better. Make sure there's not much repetition. No, I don't like that. Nah. Okay, that's cool. And here we have something really ugly. And that is coming from this one and this one. Okay, so that's cool. And here, I don't like this. Okay, so I'm going to paint this out. And this one. Okay, so we have a nice looking flame texture. And so I'm going to do, actually I'm going to make a duplicate of this. Just because I'm lazy. And I'm going to convert this to a flattened image. And now when I do filter and I do offset, I want to offset, so this is 1024, so I want to offset this by half. So we got this big ugly seam here. And now what I'm going to do is actually I'm going to grab this ones and I just want to grab them like this, and I'm going to shift drag here and I'll make sure to put them in a folder because this is getting a bit confusing. Oh, actually, sorry, this is not the right texture. I'm going to put this in a folder here. Yeah, I'm going to put this in a folder here. thought I had 3. I don't know why there's only 2. Oh, because this one didn't have a mask. Okay. So I'm gonna put these guys here. So these are these ones. And what I'm gonna do, I'm gonna add a mask to the folder. And I'm gonna paint black to the whole mask. So I just inverted it. And now I'm gonna just shift drag a brush stroke on this. And shift drag a stroke on this one. And we still have a few ones. So I'm gonna do a little paint job here. Smoothly. Make sure it doesn't look ugly and you cannot see the seams. It's very important. And voila, it's getting close. Make sure also there's no, you cannot see like crazy amounts of tiling. Like just add some, make sure, yeah, this texture is not, sorry, this brush is not the greatest. So make sure there's enough randomness in the texture. So yeah, this brush is a bit low res as well. It's not fully transparent either, so I'm gonna switch back to my basic and I'm gonna try to fix that with hardness. If you add the Cintiq, I could make different types of pressure, but overall it's looking pretty sweet. Let's see. Can you see the tiling? Oh, there's some seams here, which I want to get rid of. Make sure that the texture kind of, makes sense the way it blends. That's cool. I don't like these changes into grays, so I'm gonna kill that. Also don't. So here I'm gonna introduce the clone tool, and I'm gonna just grab some other spots. I don't like this here, so I'm gonna grab this one, and I'm gonna paint there. Oh, sorry. Actually, right now I'm painting here, so I'm gonna add a new layer. Make sure the layer is outside, and I'm gonna grab some other spot. Make sure you don't use this much, or you can if you do a really good job, but if you do it too much, you will start to see some, muddiness in the texture, and you kind of don't want that. So that's cool. All right, so we got something interesting going on there. I definitely don't like these grays here, so I'm gonna grab some other part of the texture and try to paint some nice details here. Okay, grays again. I don't like this, so I'm gonna fix that. Okay. Maybe also my Cintiq is not set to be super bright at the moment, because when it's too bright and you're painting on the Cintiq like really close to your face, if it's too bright, it will make your eyes hurt. And I definitely don't have the healthiest eyes, so I want to make sure when I'm old I still have vision. So I definitely did decrease my Cintiq brightness, so especially because it's usually very close to my face. So that's also probably the reason why I don't see this as pure white. Maybe in the video it will show pure white. That's why maybe I'm seeing too much grayish here, but I often don't like that. So I'm gonna paint this out. Let's see, I don't like this, and I can see some weird seaming there. So we'll go back to the brush and see what's going on here. Okay, I'm gonna paint white to get rid of this seam. Getting rid of all this stuff. Fire is definitely quite complicated to do for this because it's so much. It has so much detail. So here I prefer to use the black one, so I'm going to use the black one. The black mask here as well. I don't like that, so I'm going to revert. Okay, make sure there's some nice stuff in it. Now this is very similar, so I'm going to some painting here. That's good. Yeah, we can leave that one. Okay. See, this is what you would see, like the repetition there, because it's so out of place. All right, so it seems pretty decent. So what I'm gonna do again, I'm gonna use my. I still have the other one, right? I'm gonna duplicate this again, just because I don't want to duplicate layers, and I'm going to flatten image. I'm gonna go to offset, and you see, even though I'm moving it, you cannot really see, the seams. So you're like, oh, it's a tileable texture. Okay, so that's pretty cool. It's working. I see some stuff there. Well, it's not a seam, but I see a little bit of a, it's not really a seam. It's like the way the texture is done there. So I'm gonna just, like a bit straight the amount of details from one point to another, which might be on the real photo, but I definitely kind of feel like, I don't want to see that. So I'm gonna change it a little bit. Trying not to make it too muddy, or the tile there was terrible. So I'm gonna get rid of this one. Still have it a little bit, so I'm gonna get rid of it. You can also decrease the opacity on the clone, but I highly don't think that's a good idea right now, because you would see muddiness. You would start to see muddiness. And I feel like this is a bit weird. So I'm gonna try to do something about this. Something simple. Again, just with the mouse. I don't have access to my Cintiq, even though she's right in front of me. Because of you guys. You guys are guilty. You are guilty. Okay, perfect. So, and maybe a little bit more here, because it looks kind of funky. All right, so I'm gonna keep offsetting it a little bit, see if I can spot some weird spots, and I think it's fine. Okay, cool. We've done a tileable flame texture. Yay! So I'm gonna save this to our textures folder. We call it fire tileable color. All right, so this is our fire tileable color. All right, so here we have the texture we've been working on, and I went ahead and did a little experiment here. I've added an exposure, which you can find here in this little button over here, and then you click it, and then you go to exposure, and you can punch in the values I put here, which is plus 39, 0.39, minus 0.300, and gamma correction 0.04. You get something like this, and we're going to use this as a mask, not as the actual color. So we could convert this to black and white if we wanted. So we're going to call this fire tileable mask. Right, so. And go back to Unreal. So you can see I already imported this style of a texture. Oh, and the noise high density. So the noise high density, the way you generate this is very simply by going to Photoshop and then filters, rendering clouds, and you will create something like this. And I'll explain why in a minute, how to use this. But let me grab this guy here and put him back. And let's make our, oh, actually, sorry. First, we'll import the new fire mask texture. There you go. Create a new material. We'll call this fire. Let's see what name would be good for this. Fire material. I guess we can just go with fire material for now. I was thinking about the actual density of the flames, but that's okay. So, okay. We're going to set the material to be additive. And we're going to set the shading model to unlit and double-sided. So basically, we're going to focus on emissive color and opacity. Later on, we'll probably add another material for refraction, but that's going to be a separate material. And let's grab this. And let's copy and paste another one. And we're going to add a panner because we want to pan this texture. So I'm going to add another one. You can also Control-C, Control-V, and you get the same. I'm going to add these two together at one point. And probably multiply as well. Also, I'll need a texture coordinate. Actually, probably it's coordinate. So I'm going to add 2. I'm going to go ahead and plug these two. Like so. And I want, actually, and I'm going to add them together as well immediately so I can see what's going on. Add this emissive so it doesn't look like much right now. I'm going to change this to be 0.6.6 so it's bigger scale than this one. And because it's a bigger scale than that one, I also want it to be slower. So this is going to be 0.3 and this is going to be 0.8. So both of them are flowing the same direction. See, so they're going to be going. Actually, we can punch in some more values to make sure that they will never tile at the same time, if that makes sense. So it's more kind of more random the way they go. And let me just try multiplying this by this, see what happens. So let's see. Is it very similar? It's darker, so I actually want it to be darker, so I'm gonna go with this one. All right, so this, it's gonna be part of our mask for our flames. You could, again, you can convert this to black and white, you can leave it to red. For the sake of this exercise, I think there's no difference. Actually, it's actually more interesting if we use color because then we get to use component mask. So we're gonna go with that. Also gonna go ahead and add a particle color. I'm gonna copy paste so we can keep this organized. And I'm gonna multiply, for now, I'm gonna multiply this texture over here by the particle color alpha. And I'm gonna add this to opacity. And I'm very simply going to put the color in the emissive. Actually, probably not yet. Oh, actually, we probably can. So instead of using the particle color, I'm actually going to add a vector 3. And I'm going to put it here. And I'm going to kind of mimic what I would do with the particle color. So I'll punch like 30. It's probably too much. Let's try 6. Still a little bit too much. So let's try 2. Alright, so we have this going on, and I definitely want to make a mask for this. I already made one, but which is this one. But just to give you an idea of how I achieved this, I very simply went to Photoshop, made black texture, painted a little bit on it, so something like this, something like that, and then used my noise, multiplied it or darkened it. Let's see, which one was it? Yeah, I had probably color dodge, I don't remember, or overlay is good. So overlay gives you, like, you know, like we did the smoke last week. You know, you can get something cool. Then you can add another one. And you can just change this slightly. You know, like so. Sorry, not color dodge on this one. Actually want multiply. See, so I just had a little multiply and I changed the opacity. So it's a little bit less white. so you still have detail inside of the flames. Yeah, you can even see there. It's set to vivid light. Okay, so I guess I used vivid light. Yeah, this is cool. So it's a little bit better. I'm not gonna save this one because, you know, kind of pleased with the other one I had. So I'm gonna bring it in, imports, and just trying to remember what I called it. I think I called it alpha. Fire alpha. So I'm gonna bring fire alpha in, and I'm gonna bring it in. So in the fire alpha, it's gonna multiply by these. So here multiplies with this one, and then it goes here, and then we have something. And I'm also going to see for a second, what am I going to do here? Let me open this bigger. So I'm going to add another panner, and I'm going to copy one of these. I'm going to pan this to speed, probably a little bit faster. I'm gonna see, let's see. So right now this is a channel, 3 channels, and I need 2. So I'm gonna use a component mask. So this is UV right now, and I'm gonna multiply my UV by a number. I'm not sure exactly which number yet. And I need another texture coordinate. And I'm gonna add this with this, and I'm gonna add the original texture coordinate. Sorry, yes, that's correct. So I actually just need one. So I'm gonna add this one to this one, and if I want to see what's happening, it's distorting my alpha, and it's a bit too crazy right now, so I'm gonna change this to 0.1, and now it's gonna get something very nice. Probably we can go a little bit faster than this. I think it's okay. All right, so see, so now we have a lot of detail on our alpha, you know, going in. So I'm gonna save this, and let's see, what else could I do here? I'm gonna also multiply my alpha by let's see. All right, so I hope all of this is making sense. So far what I've done, I've added these 2 textures together. They have different scales, different speeds, so I'm adding them together, you know, so I get some randomization as it goes in more detail, and then I'm multiplying it by itself, so it's a bit darker and brighter at the same time. I'm also moving the alpha texture, component masking it, so instead of being RGB, I'm just using RG, and multiplying it by 0.1, and then adding it to the actual original texture coordinates, so it actually displaces the actual fire alpha just a little tiny bit at a time, so it's not too crazy. So all of them are following the same direction, which is Y up. Oh, sorry, V, if I'm correct. Sorry, Y actually. Yeah, I don't know why panner it's Y, but it's fine. And now, and also using a separate color, which I'm going to use the particle color for this. And now what I want to do is actually, well, actually this step will not make sense right now. So I'm just gonna add a subtract here so I don't forget. And I know I will subtract that by this, but I'm not gonna plug this in now because I want you guys to see why I'm gonna do that. Alright, so we have our fire material. It doesn't look like much now, but we're going to improve it. I'm going to create a particle system. I'm going to call it fire. If I could see, would be good. I'm going to call it, what am I going to call it? Fire barrel. Yeah, I think that's good. I'm going to plug it in the world. I'm going to move it into place. Like so. Here's our fire barrel. We're going to add the new material we did for it. So default particle, we're going to put this. It's compiling. So we already have something there. I'm going to change the scale over time. So constant curve, I'm going to add 2 points. I want to start at 1, and at my 1 time, I want to be 0.15. So I want it to grow 50% over its lifetime. All right, it's cool. Actually, at this point, I'm also going to put my particle color in here, and I can actually copy this value. Oh, sorry, you guys didn't see that. It was in the other monitor. So I unplugged this, and I put my particle color there. And what I'm going to do actually is I'm going to click the actual vector free. I'm going to set this back to 1, and I'm going to copy this value here. X linear. And when I go back to my particle editor, I'm going to put it here. X linear. Control V. So I got the same color. I think the value was 6. And I'm also going to put it on this one. But here I'm going to change the value a little bit. Set it to 1. No, actually it was correct. So I'm just going to change the value a little bit. So that means that at the end of the lifetime, the flames will be less intense and less orange, becoming a bit more desaturated. I'm actually going to punch in a little bit the reds, so it feels like they're dying out better. All right, so I'm also going to add initial rotation, so it's more random, and I'm also going to add rotation rate, and I'm going to change this to minus 0.15. So they rotate a little bit during their lifetime. Okay. Yeah, it seems very small, so I'm gonna actually try to increase the size a little bit. I'm probably gonna be doing a location cylinder. It's too big. So let's see. The start radius is too big, so I'm gonna put 20. That's a bit better. And I also don't want this to be too high up as it comes. It's kind of hard to see with this window, sadly. All right, it's too bright as well. But we have to start somewhere. All right. So there's our flames. I'm gonna move it down. Gonna scale up a little bit the size. Some flames can be a lot bigger. If it's too big. No, it's actually not too big. Cool. So that's something going on there. Oh, it's really doing something funky there on the reflections. Something weird with the reflection of the place. It's probably because it's screen space reflections. It's doing some funky stuff there. Okay, so we got our flames. It's penetrating a little bit there, which I'm not happy. So I'm going to move there. Cool. So we have something burning right now, which is always good. Good point to start. So actually, I was getting really annoyed with the screen space material, and I couldn't find a quick and easy solution to get rid of it, so I just hide the actual floor, and now we don't have that issue anymore. Another thing I've done was actually, as you see, the fire has a lot more reddish tone to it now, so I also added some different things in the material. Let's see what I did here. So basically, I thought the alpha was too strong, so I multiplied by almost half of it, and then multiplied it by this again. And again, a 0.3, so it's even less intense. And then we go like we did. So we're getting a lot nicer colors right now. See? My machine seems to be getting a little bit slow, probably because of all the windows I have open. So let me just try to close this one. Save, please. Alright, save this one. See, I was experimenting a little bit with different colors and different stuff there, which we will get into soon. Save, close, and is it better? Still seems a little bit slow. That's alright, I guess. Alright, so we still have some penetration going on. And I'm not a fan of that. So let me get this guy again. See if what we can change here. So initial velocity. Okay, so this is one of the issues here. Actually, I don't want the velocity at all for this. I want gravity to control the velocity, so I want gravity to take over. And let's try some values here. Something that makes sense. Probably more than that. That's cool. And initial velocity. Well, we can have, but maybe not so much. Maybe. Okay. And no 0. It's cool. Okay. We have less penetration going on. Another thing I can do also is make sure at the beginning we have another point here. So I want them to be at half when they were born. Actually, I just need to change the X, but just paranoia. I always change all of them. 0.3, they're going to be 1, and at 1, they're going to be 0.5. Sorry, 1.5. Alright, so this fixes it. Hopefully. Okay. Well, there's still some. There is still some. So I'm actually going to push this one up a little bit. I'm going to duplicate this. I'm going to move this one down. And oh, actually, I'm actually moving both. I forgot. I'm getting used to Unity where when you change, you can move one emitter independently. It's kind of very different from this. So this one, I probably don't want so much acceleration. And I want to move it up a little bit. It's hard to tell. So I can get more fuller base, you know. So the idea was to make it this emitter. They don't live so long. Oh yeah, actually this is not a flip lock, so actually I can do that. So they will live a lot less. For some reason it's still not working. Okay, that's not it. It's too much. And now we have that issue again. So all about tweaking. And let me disable this for now. We'll go back to it. But let me disable it for now. Alright, so now we have our flames. And let's actually Not as bad as I thought it would be for that example I wanted to show you guys. So let's see what. Okay, so color over life. If you guys check in my alpha, I did a few punched some values here. In my number 4 or number 3, it goes to 0, but I could have wanted this to go to 1. You see, they're dying very abruptly, right? So what I wanted to do is actually grab this, put it here. What I wanted to do is actually, instead of using the alpha alone by itself, I actually want to subtract by this noise texture, so they would actually dissolve like flames. So if we take a look, again, it's kind of hard to tell. It's not going to be very visible in this example, sadly, but usually it's pretty cool. You know, you get stuff getting, you know, subtracted from one texture to another, and it kind of dissolves the texture instead of just fading it off linearly. So it's pretty good for fire, especially if we have a ramp, you know, and we can keep the central part of it white. It's pretty sweet. All right, so we got the burning barrel. I'm gonna add some variation to the lifetime, so we get some cool stuff. And I can also try changing this to velocity and add size by velocity, see what happens. Might be cool, might not be cool. It's very cool. Too cool. It's way too cool. Nah. Also, I want to add some drag. Well, actually, flames probably not, because they would just dissolve. But let's see what happens. Yeah, nah. Alright, I still feel like the flames could be bigger at the end of lifetime. I'm gonna delete this just in case, because for Unreal Engine sometimes there's some weird stuff. Yeah, no, it's super stretchy. Sorry, screw. Unreal Engine sometimes is super stretchy. Drag. Yeah, I don't want drag. On the flames, on the smoke definitely, but on the flames not really. Okay, so we have fire. I still feel like we can have more variation here. Okay, now it's a little bit too intense. Actually, we can even add more detail to this, honestly. So let's see. I don't know if this is gonna look good, but we can try. Let's see what I was thinking. Scale. UVs by center. So I'm going to scale the UVs. Good thing we have a tiling texture. And add the dynamic parameter. I call it scale UV. I'm also going to do the same for this one. So I'll go here, and this one also goes here. And save this. Let's see what happens. Okay, so far so good. Alright, so with this we can actually change the scale of the texture on the fly. So if I put 0, you see the scale is enormous, which is pretty cool. So 0.1, get more faint flames, and we can keep going. 0.1, 0.6, 2. Actually, it's getting a bit too noisy. So I don't know if this is something I want to use. So this is default. This is not. Well, I can tell you what I'm going to do. I'm going to duplicate this. And I'm going to have one with and one with not. And this one, which is the one with very intense flames, I want to make them live a lot less. And I was going to delete the cylinder. Yeah, they're getting killed very abruptly, sadly. So let's see. How can I help this? You can see there's like this core, and it's bursting, and then it's getting killed. But very honestly, I feel like it's not really adding any quality to the effect at all. So I'm gonna go ahead and not be afraid of killing it. And meanwhile, I'm also gonna go to the fire, and I'm gonna get rid of this. Was a good try, but you know, didn't really pan out to do much for this exercise. So still feel like maybe we can actually. Oh, now we have two. Let's see. Let's see. It's acting all crazy. Yeah. No. Goodbye. That's not good. And this one. Get rid of this. And constant acceleration. Might be a bit too much. I feel like I changed something here that kind of broke the effect. I feel like the scale is not. It's burning so much it's leaking. It's leaking flames. Alright, no. Let's see. So, looking at it again, let's do our, good exercise of taking a good look at it and seeing what might be wrong with it. So that probably means the scale in our effect is too large. So this is probably too much. So let's change this to, and this one we're going to change to 0.3. Oh, sorry, 0.3. See what happens. It's also very. There's a lot of too many black spots, I think. Let's try. See if this is the enemy. No, this is not. The evildoer. It's one of these guys here. So let's do something funky here. Just a test. Yeah. A little bit better. Just a little bit better. It's kind of hard to judge because my computer is really slow at the moment. Let's change this back to... Again, I don't want to spend too much time on a fire without the smoke or the other elements, because who knows, maybe once I add all of them together, the fire will look more consistent and it will make more sense. So let's not get too crazy about, you know, making the fire perfect without having the other elements in place as well. Because, you know, an effect is a combination of all elements, not just one element by itself. So we're going to work on the smoke and embers and refraction, and then we'll come back to the fire and improve what we have to, if we have to, because once the other elements are in, maybe the issues we have with the fire are not an issue anymore. Alright, so I did a few more tweaks in the fire, and I've noticed that an issue I'm having is the fact that I'm actually recording. And because the frame rate is not consistent, because I'm recording, it actually is messing up the motion in my fire. As soon as I turned off the recording, this actually was looking pretty good. And I started recording again, and this is all a mess. So I'm not exactly sure how I can fix that. Yeah, this was looking pretty good. Like the motion and the actual quality. Now I see like the frame rate dropping quite a bit because I'm recording. Doesn't help that I'm recording at 4K. So I did a few tweaks, and sadly, because the fact it's recording, it's really breaking them. I increased the number of particles a little bit, so I actually increased it to 40, and I also add a drag with a random minus 0.4 and 0.7, so some of the particles would get more drag than other ones. And I also added a point detractor to simulate wind, but right now, as you can tell, it's leaking off the barrel, and when I was not recording, was actually looking pretty decent. Yeah, I think it's because of it cannot calculate all the steps, and it's making the fire look really funky. Yeah, when I was not recording, it's actually doing like a motion more like this, you know, going up a little bit and then drifting to the right, sorry. So yeah, I'm not exactly sure I can get around the fact that when I'm recording, this is going to be a bit messed up. I can try changing this a little bit, but to compensate for the recording, but yeah, maybe I'll try to fraps it or something, so you guys can see how it actually looks without Camtasia or Camtasia. Let's see if I reduce the strength, it starts, yeah, it looks so different. It looks really different. Oh, it's not even doing anything. Oh, because of this. Yeah. Well, yeah. It's kind of frustrating. But yeah, I'll try to give you guys the fraps recording so you can actually see how this looks. Even the fire, it's dissolving in a much nicer way. It's much more crisp. Overall, it looks way better. The motion looks better. The quality of the texturing looks better. It's a big difference. But enough of that. We should keep going and add the next elements. We're going to also be adding the smoke and most likely the refraction and the light. Oh, actually, we can start with the light, which is pretty simple. I'm actually going to duplicate this emitter and call this light or firelight. And I'm going to decrease the number of particles to 2. And we can see them there. You don't actually need a texture for lights, but since we already here, there's no big difference. And also don't need the point attraction or this. And honestly, the constant acceleration, probably neither, but so I'm going to add a light. And you see the light is already shining inside of the barrel, which is pretty cool, and shining slightly outside of the barrel, which is what we want. And I can tweak the light settings a little bit. We can, right now it's taking the actual color and it's tinting it, but you know, you could do something a bit like you want more red, you can just, you know, make it more reddish, or if you wanted some more greens in there so it's golden, you know. So this is how it looks right now, and we need a bit more frequency, so I'm gonna change the min and max a little bit, and I'm also gonna increase a little bit the quantity. You need to be very careful with this because lights are quite expensive, so it's a little bit faster, but I'm also going to decrease the lifetime, so there are going to be less overlapping lights. See now, well, no, maybe now it's a bit too much, so 0.67, 0.1, so we get some consistent, and I can actually make them move up a little bit, so we see in the reflections that it's moving as well. We can also change the radius a little bit. Let's try this. I like to go really strong in values so we can see exactly what's going on. Like the radius scale right now is not doing much. At 0, yeah, it's doing something. It's not doing much. So I'm going to leave it 6. And light exponent is very cool because you can actually get like a big multiplier. So you'll see. It's actually not doing it as much as I would think. Oh, maybe it's this one. Yeah, this one. The brightness over life. So you can put something a bit more reasonable. It was 30. Actually, in a scene light as this, the fire probably would not have so much influence, so I'm going to decrease it. 30. You know, we have some influence, but not like crazy amounts of influence, which, you know, in a scene as bright as this, you would not see the light so prominent. So a little flicker here and there. Even these reflections are a little bit too much, but I'm going to keep them. So we added the firelight. I'm going to duplicate this guy again. And I'm going to name this my smoke. Also, the order of this is pretty important. This is a sorting order, you know. So I forgot in Unreal which one it is which. Either the ones here are rendering to the back and these ones are rendering to the front, or the other way around. I don't know. We need to test because I honestly don't remember. Unreal is very unclear on that. Okay, but you know, we'll put the smoke here and we'll figure it out. So it's gonna be my smoke. So I'll need a new material for this. And I have the dust from last time. So potentially I can just duplicate the smoke, the foot dust, call it smoke. And we'll see. We'll see what we can do with this. See if it's good enough. And this is a flip book. It has 4 tiles. Alright, so it's 2 by 2. Flip book, 2 by 2. Random. I need to add my sub-UV index. Okay. Still not working because I didn't select it. Alright, so I clicked it and we have now our smoke. It's kind of greenish. So we're going to change this to be gray. Actually, you can do a trick, which is pretty cool. But that in a second. So my alpha setting is cool. And I'm gonna get rid of this overlife because I don't want this. So it's 1, and then the 2 is 1, the 3 it's 0, that's correct. That's cool. I feel like it's very, very faint. So I'm gonna double check what's going on here. So emissive, I can put it a little bit more, try to push it just a little bit more. Probably will, also this shader is lit. Yes, it's lit, okay, good. Yeah, it's a normal map and everything. So actually I shouldn't be changing the emissive, but at least I can see it a little bit more. So I can cheat this a little bit. I can put 2 on the alpha or 3, so it's becoming a bit more visible. Put 2 here, and sorry, put 2 here and put 3 here, so we see it a little bit more. Also, I want more drag on this. I want maybe 1.2 and I want 0.8. Okay, and I want the initial size to be a lot bigger. So yeah, that's cool. And this one to 65. Okay, that's cool. And I want it to actually grow to 2.5. And I'm going to move the emitter up as well. So I'm going to move up in the y-axis. I'm going to also add the oh, this one doesn't have. I wanted to see the actual emitter there. So I'm just going to move it by hand a little bit. So 40 meters, a little bit less. Okay, something like that would work. And now let's turn on with the fire. We can see it. Another thing I'm going to do, the trick I was talking about, I'm going to change this to constant curve. Add 2 points. And I want at the beginning of its lifetime the smoke to be really orangey. So it's like, feels like it's actually getting caught by the light from the fire. It's being tinted. You see, if I do it, you can see that there's like a haze of orange. See, it's very subtle, but it's there. I can actually double check here to make sure my particle color is being fed into base color. And I actually want my particle color also to be multiplied by this value. So it's also tinting in the emissive. It's probably going to be a little too crazy now. Yeah, it's a little bit too much. So what I'm going to do is actually I want to change the influence before I plug it here. I want to change this multiplier to 45. So it's not going to be so intense. Well, it's still a little bit too much. Let's change it to 1.1. Yeah, it seems like it's taking a lot more than I thought. It's becoming really, really aggressive when I turn it to the emissive. So I'm going to actually change this to a more neutral color. Okay, and that changed it completely. Oh, also, it seems like I forgot to put the 1 here. So that's why it was acting kind of weird. So right now, this is going to be the initial color, which is going to be red. And if I put like a blue here, so you can really tell the difference. See, it's becoming from red to blue. If I would crank this up, change this to a constant, and I'll put 6, you'll clearly see it. See, as it goes up, it becomes blue and starts red. To emphasize it more, I can just put like a 10 here. And I'm going to put like a 10 here. You can really see it's already getting mixed, which is looking kind of weird. See, it's becoming blue there and orange here. It's becoming kind of weird because the value is going over 1. So I actually like this value pretty strong. It looked pretty interesting. So I'm going to, maybe not as much, but put like a 6 here. And I'm gonna put this one to be a gray value. Alright, and I want to make sure that my gray value starts at like 0.3, and I'm gonna try to copy this value here. Oops, cancel that. I'm gonna double click, Control C, and I'm gonna paste it here. Okay, like so. And I want to make sure this is set to 1, which I actually didn't need, but just want to make sure. So it becomes from red to gray very quickly. Actually, I want it to be even quicker. So I'm going to put 0.1. That's cool. It's really disappearing, so I'm not a big fan of that. You know, I'd see the smoke. So I'm going to put it a bit brighter. Yeah, it seems like we have an issue with the alpha. So I might need to go in and see what's going on with the alpha of this texture, because I remember the last time it was also giving us some funny results. Okay, but when I play them together, also the smoke is living a bit too long, or maybe it's not getting enough drag. I feel like I changed the drag settings on this. Also, I don't really care about point attraction for the smoke. I'm gonna make it bigger as well. Try something a bit crazy. See what happens. Okay, let's see. Okay, that feels pretty good. So I'm gonna increase the alpha a little bit more. It's a little bit on the intense side. I'm actually gonna lower it as well. I'm gonna lower it to 15. And just going crazy a little bit here. Yeah, that's okay. So I cranked this value up a lot, so I actually can see very clearly when they switch colors. All right, so here, this point is a 0.3 value. So I'm gonna put this back to 6. So it's still getting like this hazy feeling from the fire. And I'm gonna change it to 3. And I really need to change the texture because I really don't like it's really not working for, well, it is, but it's not a fan of the look. It's a little, you know, blobs of smoke. Not really my thing. Okay, but regardless. Oh, but now since I changed the lifetime, which I actually don't want to be a constant curve, I want to be 2 and 3. And I'll probably need to tweak the color of life again, because since my thing is shorter now, I need to tweak this so I can still see the reds in the smoke. Alright, that's pretty cool. I'm pretty sure as soon as I turn off the recording, this is going to look way better. So actually I shouldn't tweak this too much and not be worried too much about the texturing, because maybe it's something wrong. That's actually a good point. That's actually a good advice. Like, you know, sometimes in production, like Naughty Dog, like an example, some things are not working in your current build. Remember builds? We spoke about this earlier. So maybe somebody else broke something, like they broke exposure, or maybe the textures are corrupted, or, you know, could be many things. It will affect the look of your things, and also will affect your performance. And I know I'm talking about a lot about this, but the fact my fire is not in performance right now, or when I'm recording this is not in performance, it's looking really weird. It's not looking like it actually is supposed to. So as soon as I stop recording, you know, you can imagine it is as soon as somebody fixes something that would put frame rate back to normal. And that could fix your effects. You know, like sometimes we go in and the stuff we did is broken and we don't understand why, and we have to dig into it. And sometimes we start fixing it, and then the next day it gets broken again because somebody else fixed what they had wrong in the day we were fixing things, you know. So sometimes the best thing you can do is just, you know, move along, work something else, Uh, wait to see if the situation is fixed. Of course, you need to talk to people and see what's broken and try to figure out if it's really going to get fixed and if it's really breaking anything. And if you know it's something that's causing an issue and if it's going to get fixed, don't waste your time fixing your thing, because it will need to get fixed again. So just wait for the fix and you're good. Like this case, I'm not going to tweak too much because I want to see how it looks when I pause the recording, because maybe it will look just fine. Don't know. Yeah, so that's pretty much it. In the next video, we're gonna look at the refraction, which is something I typically don't use much, even on Fire, just because it's really expensive and it doesn't really add much to the effect. I know a lot of people would hate me for saying this, but in all honesty, it's not something you can really see, unless you're really looking for it. And if you want a better Fire, if you want a place with a lot of fire and you have like very expensive effects going on around, maybe refraction is something you shouldn't really consider to be essential, because people won't really they will feel it if they get close to it and they stop and they admire it, but maybe in combat, for instance, they will not even notice it, and it's really expensive. So it's one of those things that, sure, it's good to have, but just be mindful that if you cannot have it, it's not like nobody's gonna die because of it. I think a lot of people tend to give it a lot more credit than it deserves, but other things, of course, it's pretty cool, explosions and stuff like that. But for Fire, it's nice to have, but I will have to see if it's justifiable. I have to see if it actually makes a big difference. Maybe it will make shimmering on the edges of the barrel and stuff like that. But over there on the top, I don't know. It's something we need to evaluate. Oh, also we need to make the embers. So let's get onto it. So I'm actually not even going to change the smoke, honestly, because as soon as I stopped recording, it looks really good. I have to figure out for the next lessons if I should reduce my monitor's resolution and try to record this at a smaller resolution, because right now it's pretty big, and maybe that's one of the reasons it's causing this issue. But yeah, like even the motions, like that's just unbelievable. As soon as I start recording, all this gets messed up. So yeah, the smoke actually looks pretty good when I'm not recording. So I'll try to show you guys how it actually looks, but just bear with me. Let's do the embers, because the embers are pretty cool. There's a nice touch. I'm also going to get rid of some of these emitters. And as usual, I'm going to start my effect using my Fire as a base. I'm going to call it... Actually, I'm going to call this the Fire base. And I'm going to isolate my embers. Embers. I can't really see my keyboard because I got the microphone in front. So this is going to be my embers, and we're going to quickly do material for it. And let's see. So we could start making a texture for it, but I think just a simple glow will do. So I'm going to import the ember texture I did, which is very simple. Just a stroke in Photoshop. Actually, two strokes. And it kind of looks like this. It's going to be good. Put this in my embers. We're going to quickly do the material. Very, very simple material. We don't need anything complicated. Of course, you can complicate as much as you want, but for our purposes, we're not. And honestly, most of my years in game production is usually quite a simple shader. Uncharted, we're doing something a bit more complicated. But for the most part, it's pretty simple. So I'm gonna multiply the alpha. So I'm gonna get my alpha from my particle color, and I'm also going to get just a red channel. It's fine. From this, you know, you could set this as a mask texture and make sure there's only a mono channel, you know, just a black and white texture, but we don't really need to care for that. See how it looks. It looks proper, transparent. You can also add it to additive if you want, and definitely unlit, two-sided. We can try that, see how it looks. If it looks too bright, if it's blending too much, we will switch to translucent. So that's it, and we're going to our embers, and I'm going to choose the embers texture, and I want to isolate this how it looks. Oh, cool. Definitely not for the purposes of what we want, but definitely a nice, interesting feel. Looks like bokeh. So I'm going to change the size, and I'm going to give it some variation. Okay, maybe that's a little bit too much. I'm going to put 2. You know, if it's too small, why be there wasting performance anyways? You know, most cases, if it's that small, you probably don't, you can live without it. It has some drag though. I'll probably add some turbulence as well. Also, another thing I'm going to do is I'm going to increase the radius of the base of the cylinder. And I'm also going to increase the height a little bit, and I'm going to push it up a little bit. Oh, actually, yeah, I'm going to push it up, because we cannot see it unless we're sticking our face into the barrel, which we probably won't. And also, you would only see flames anyways. Okay, that's cool. These seem a little bit too small, especially if I turn on the fire. I don't think we'll be able to see them. Well, you can, but they're very tiny. So I'm gonna put 4. I'm gonna put 8. See how it looks. I think 8 is a bit too much, so I'm gonna put 7. All right. So another thing I'm gonna do, I'm gonna change this to velocity, and I'm gonna add speed by velocity. Sorry, size by velocity. So we can get the stretchy effect. Size by speed. That's what I meant. So let's see. All right, that's more like it. And I'm also probably will not work with an orbit. Oh, it does. Okay, good. You know, if the speed was too large or the scaling was too large, it would not work. But this actually works. I just want something a bit less crazy because this is a bit too much. Okay, that's cool. That's not too bad. Put minimum rotation here just for the sake of it. Also, I feel like now that they're stretching, they're a bit too big. So I'm going to change these ones to 5. And these ones to probably 2, so there's more variation. And also going to move this up because I don't want this to be intersecting with the barrel. Which it could. I mean, if we had an opening like here, it would. Okay. And also make sure that there's a bit more variation in it. So, yeah, now it feels a little bit too intense. I want to change the size by speed, and I want to change this to 2. Or even 1.5. Let's see. Yeah, it's a bit too intense. And this is not enough. And what was the value I had? Okay, that's not too bad. See if there's any other options now. Alright, that's not too bad. I feel like some of them are living too long. So I'm going to decrease this to 0.4, 2.4, and this to 0.3 and see what happens. Okay, that feels pretty good. Well, as good as we can make it look with the low frame rate. So we are spawning 40 at the moment. We can go a bit crazier for more sparks. But I feel like it's a bit too insane. We can go lower. It's probably more what I would do. Or you can go like middle ground. Yeah, maybe more. 45. Okay, another thing I want to do, I want to size scale them. I actually want them to start at 0. And also I want them to go back to 0 the moment they die. So they're actually shrinking, not just turning the alpha to 0. Alright, so that looks pretty cool. Nice motion. Orbit seems like it's doing a good job. So we can save this. Another thing we can try is to change the order of our smoke. See if it does change anything. So right now it seems like this way this one is front. So it's gonna render closer to the camera. If I put it in back, seems like the fire is running in the front. So I think that's the way it works. So the further away from the screen is, or the further to the right, it's closer to the camera. Yeah, it's really weird, like with the low frame rate, that I got sometimes chunks of fire that kind of live longer. It's really strange. All right, cool. So embers were good. Let's just try the refraction and we'll see. We'll see if it looks good or not. So let's get with it. Let's make a refractive material. Let's try refraction. Okay, so refraction, I actually need this to be translucent. I don't need it. Lighting. I don't even need it. I don't think I'm gonna put two-sided. So let's see. I'm going to need a lerp. And refraction, the way it works is 1 is no refraction, 0 is like insanely refractive. And most of the effects you want them to be on a 0.90 plus scale. So I'm gonna add a constant. Actually, I'm gonna add two constants. One is gonna be 1, and the other one is gonna be 0.98. And I'm gonna add this one to my B. And I need a value to kind of interpolate between these two. So I'm actually gonna use my Ember texture, and I'm gonna put it in the alpha. And I probably want to switch these two actually. So basically saying like, where is white? It's gonna be 1. Oh no, actually. So whereas 9.8 is gonna be on the white, and 1 is gonna be on the black. So we would get more refraction in the middle. So let's just give it a quick spin, see how it looks. It's giving me an error because this is vector 3 and I just need a vector 1. And I also want another constant 0 for opacity because we don't need opacity for this. I'm gonna add this, and I'm gonna duplicate my smoke. No, actually I can duplicate the embers, it doesn't matter. Let's put refraction. And I'm gonna add the refraction to it. Okay, so we're getting these cards. Actually, I want to get just to see it. Oh, okay, as you see, it's working. So I'm gonna make this bigger, and it's very intense right now. And because also we have a lot of particles, so see, now we're getting some shimmering haze there. It's a little bit intense, but again, if you're not really seeing it, it doesn't really, why is it there? Spinning performance. So I'm actually going to put this to 0.9. Alright. You can also switch these to see if it look better. Yeah, this is less. So actually, just for a quick check, I'm gonna put two colors here. And I'll make sure that I'm not giving wrong information. So let's see. And this I'm going to switch to 1. Well, actually, I'm going to plug this into emissive and cut all these. Let's cut all these. Okay, so all right. So B is on white and A is on black. All right. So I want the black to be 1 and I want 9.9 to be B. So this is the correct way. So now I'm going to change this back to refraction. Make sure the opacity is 0, not 1. And let's try it. Yeah, but now I need to increase the size because right now it's very tiny. Something like that. Probably increase a little bit more. It's becoming more expensive for no reason, honestly. Okay, now you can see it. The edges are a bit better, but honestly, again, it's such a tiny effect. I don't know if it's worth it. Maybe the other way around was, good enough. Less particles, and you pretty much get the same effect because they're a bit stronger. This is more accurate, but if you want like super awesome quality cinematic, then go for it. But let's see in conjunction with this. Yeah, we can see it. It's working. Probably gonna pull this to the right. Oh, the way I do it is actually I just grab it and go to the left and go to the right in the keyboard. So right now the refraction is going to render in the front. If I wanted more refraction, it's going to be very expensive. I'm going to add it there, which honestly there's not much of a difference. I'm going to put back to 30, which is still a lot if you think about it. I'm going to change this to also 0.1. So at least we have particles, but they're actually doing something. You see that pop that appeared there is because I'm touching values and the frame rate is so low. Actually cannot calculate all the particles going on. Even though the effect itself is cheap. It's a very cheap effect, but, well, fairly cheap. Now with the refraction, it's definitely not as cheap as it was. And with the light, but... And yeah, that's pretty much this. Now we have a complete fire effect with, we have a little bit of a drift of wind, which it's not really working at the moment. I need to show you with the recording off. We have embers, we have a light, we have refraction, and we have smoke. And yeah, this is a complete fire effect, done in a very efficient way, just using shader tricks, no flipbooks. Well, if you don't consider the smoke a flipbook, so what I say is not like a movie. Yeah. So I hope this was helpful, and I hope you guys enjoyed this week, and we'll talk about homework.